Hey guys, Luke here, and it's been a long time since I made a video, probably months I'm guessing. I mean, the NRL's been back for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks since the COVID stuff, and even then I hadn't been making videos regularly during the COVID period or even before that. But the NRL has started up again. I've been enjoying it. I haven't been making videos because I've just been enjoying the footy. I've been working, I've been busy, and like I said, I've just been enjoying the footy. And honestly, like, no disrespect to making the videos or anything, but sometimes making the videos and constantly watching games under the eyes of, I've got to analyze this because I've got to talk about it, it sort of makes it draining sometimes. So I can see why some of the Fox Sports people and all the, Nine people and stuff, they start seeing things differently rather than just to be a fan and, watch the game and just enjoy it. You start watching the game looking for things to talk about rather than just enjoying it. So it's been nice, considering I've been talking about rugby league for years and years now. It's been nice to just sit back and enjoy it, as weird as it sounds, just as sort of like a regular fan, not having to worry about, oh, well, I've got to do this, and oh, well, what if I'm wrong about this opinion? And then people slam me about it. Got to make sure I'm right. Got to make sure I have my facts, which is funny because I probably don't really speak in too many facts, a lot of opinions. But I thought for this video, I'd just give my thoughts on the season so far. So I'm not even sure exactly what round we're up to. Probably at round 6 or 7. But it's been a bit of a disjointed year, obviously, with the COVID stuff. We had your first 2 rounds and then had that bit of a break. And now we're back and things are sort of getting back to normal in terms of rugby league anyway. I know Victoria's sort of gone back into lockdown or whatever. So Melbourne, I think, are relocating. So that's starting to spin it in the works. But I saw the actual season itself, the quality of football has been quite good. What I have noticed the last couple of weeks is that there's been a fair few injuries. I don't know if I'm just imagining it, and it's probably been the same the last few years, and I'm just overanalyzing it because of the whole COVID situation. But it feels like a lot of people are coming up with some pretty serious injuries now. The ones like Will Hopewadi, like last week, that's just ones that happen all the time. Those syndesmosis ones, foot gets caught under or something. That's just always going to happen. But the ones like Bradley and Sam Verrills and stuff, those ones which I think maybe down to the field, it's hard to say because Bankwest is such a new field, and it's not like it had been played like there'd been a game on the night before or a couple of nights before or something. I think there'd been like a week in between. So that one was a little bit strange to me. However, still, there's the point of it. There's been a fair few injuries. Drabojevic is just a hamstring one. So whether it's, field conditions or even just the conditionings of the players, after having a fair bit of time off, they've done the preseason, they've got fit and ready for the season. A lot of the players talk about in the preseason, that's when they're actually the fittest. They come into the season ready to go. But then having that break in between where it's not like gyms were open and stuff as well. So a lot of them had gym equipment and stuff, but you go from training with your team to training by yourself. There definitely is a big difference. Even myself, when I go to the gym, when I'm with people, I don't mind going by myself every now and again, but that's just every now and again. Like I said, I'd rather go with a group. You can sort of just thrive off each other and sort of keep yourself motivated, which I'm assuming the footy players, they've been in group environments probably their whole life, if they're playing professional football at this stage. So for them to have to go home and try and keep up that fitness, I'm sure they are. But even so, like Luke Thompson is just signed for the Bulldogs. He was in isolation or quarantine or whatever for the 2 weeks because he's coming from England, as all the international travellers are doing or whatever. I think even interstate are doing it still. But just seeing his little setup, while he's a very fit guy, and I'd say for, regular Joe Blow, if I did that, I'll be blowing. I'll be exhausted doing his little workout things. But at the same time, then having to go onto a football field and perform, I feel like there's a big difference between just being sort of everyday fit and then being professional athlete fit. So I feel like the conditioning definitely has affected a lot of players. Even some of the players who were injured in the meantime, like during that COVID period, because they changed the rules, which I think the rules have been pretty good so far. I think it's been a success, the 6 again call, whatever it is. The only thing I'd say, sometimes it is a little bit frustrating because they just say 6 again. It's not like, 6 again for handling the ball, 6 again for laying all over the ruck, whatever. It's like 6 again, and you've got to try and decipher what it is. So sometimes it's frustrating, especially if it's a bit of a dubious one. Sometimes the hand on ball ones, you look at it and, they call it all the time. And I feel like every time there's a penalty, I'll still say, bullshit, that's not a penalty, even though it probably is. But because it's such like a, I don't know, you have to really analyze it. It's kind of hard to pick up on TV. It's only in like slow motion when they do it. is when you notice it. Even then, you sort of think, oh, well, that's been happening every tackle. So it is a hard one. And then you add in the fact that they've gone back to the one referee. So there are things getting missed. The other night, there was a forward pass, which I know even one referee, it was the linesman. The linesman was standing right in line with it. It passed it right next to him. And it was so far forward. I think Jared Croker threw the ball. It was actually like embarrassing. It's one of the worst I've seen. They're not talking about it at the moment, which is surprising, to be honest. I feel like the papers, they love to pick up on that sort of stuff, but that was embarrassing. But I think overall, referees have been half decent, but I think it's also down to the fact that people are so desperate for rugby league at the moment, and also the media doesn't want to shit on it, which is weird considering years and years and years of the media just nitpicking every little thing and just running it into the ground, and to the detriment of the game. They've been quite bad with that sort of stuff. Anyways, I've actually wrote some notes just to keep me on point here. So I just said I've been loving the season so far. Like I said, the rule changes are great, a little bit inconsistent sometimes, but overall I think pretty good. Maybe they can sort of just touch it up a little bit, but so far, for a rule change that sort of seemed to happen very quickly, I think it's gone quite well. What I do want to talk about is the fact of the Broncos. Now, I think in my predictions, or I did some sort of video just after, like when they'll announce that they're coming back from the COVID stuff. The Broncos in the first 2 weeks, they looked amazing. Now, in hindsight, I mean, I can't remember who they played the second week, but they definitely played the Cowboys and they touched them up. Maybe that's a reflection more on the Cowboys now. We can look at that and probably say that's pretty accurate. Cowboys haven't been great this season despite some of their signings. They've been very hot and cold. Maybe that was a cold week for them. But yeah, the Broncos, they had 2 great games before the COVID where they looked very, very good. Brodie Croft was looking like a good signing. And as soon as they came back, they definitely did not hit the ground running. They've been looking very, very average. There's lots of pressure on Croft and Milford. And do they put Dearden in? Are they going to sign someone else? Hard to say. They did sign Ben Teo. I think he looked half decent when he's played, but I mean, he's kind of just a stopgap. He's quite old in terms of rugby league senses, and also he's been out of the game for a while. So how long his body will last, who knows? But he's actually been looking all right. But yeah, the Broncos, they just look absolutely shocking. Especially, it's just weird. If this was like another team, you'd probably look at, like, even like the Bulldogs. Last year's, we know they're bad. We know their salary cap situation is bad. The Broncos don't really have any reason why they should be as bad as what they are, apart from bad investments in the players, even bad investments in the coaching, possibly. Seabold seems very out of his depth. I mean, when he went to the Broncos, big raps on him, but he'd only been a coach for 1 season. He got the Rabbitohs to the, semi-finals or something, which was like a good achievement, but the Rabbitohs had a really good roster. So even then, maybe he underachieved with that Rabbitohs side. Who knows? But Seabold definitely hasn't had a good start to his career at the Broncos last year, and then this year. He's surviving the sack at the moment, but I'd say he's just barely surviving. Other teams like Storm, I can't get a read on them. Some weeks they look really good, some weeks they don't. I think the new rule changes definitely have affected them. Guys like Hughes, Pappenhausen and stuff, it's okay for them, but in terms of their general team, they play with a lot of structure. So when the 6 again call goes, it's like, well, shit, what do we do? Or things go against them. I mean, the defense is always going to be pretty solid, but they've got a few off-the-cuff players, but I mean, for the most part, I don't know. Going into the COVID stuff, I thought they looked pretty good the first few weeks. So them coming back, and I think they lost first up, and I was like, ooh, okay, things could be a little bit different here. Also, I want to talk about the fact that the no crowds, or there is a little bit of crowds now. I've become very, very used to it very, very quickly. I think the actual break kind of helps the TV aspect of it. The first few weeks, when they started the season sort of as normal but with no crowds, it was like, oh, this is weird. Then there was that period where we had no football, and we're just itching for anything. So any football, mate, I've been watching like NBA 2K games on TV, like on ESPN or whatever. That's how desperate I was for football. For sport, I should say. But overall, we were all very desperate for football. So when they brought it back, it was like, no crowds, that's all we got to put up with? I don't care. And then they added in all the sounds, and I think it's all been pretty good. Now they're actually bringing back a few fans, so I think that's been quite good. Just looking at my notes real quick. It does feel weird to sort of be in this time frame of the year and not have everything set in around State of Origin. I actually feel like it's quite refreshing for once. As much as I do miss State of Origin, I was definitely planning on going this year. It is just nice to not have, the first 2 weeks in, and you have, I don't know, a random player A, a random player B going, oh, these two should be the halves in New South Wales. Oh, Nathan Cleary's not playing. Oh, we're definitely going to drop him. And this is happening. Got to drop this guy. Got to pick this guy. Oh, what a joke if they don't pick Bryce Cartwright again. Just random things like that happens every year. And we all know the media does it. They hype up some players who probably don't deserve it. And then they fade off. And then players get big heads and ask for more money. And there's always money troubles. And all that sort of stuff. I feel like Origin, as good as it is, it creates a lot of drama, injuries. There's always the talk of, well, we got to suspend the season, and they kind of do a little bit now. But yeah, definitely a lot of controversy around Origin time. Good and bad. Love Origin, and I'm glad it's going to be at the end of the year. So it'd be nice to just experiment and see how the end of year Origin goes. Maybe it's something they can do going forward as a motorbike goes. Straight past, ruined the video. No, just kidding. Let's keep going. So yeah, the last thing I really had to talk about essentially was just the top 8. It's been so inconsistent in terms of teams. I feel like obviously before the COVID, Roosters were 0-2, didn't look that great. I know they're Western players, but they didn't really look that great, and you're thinking maybe the motivation's gone. Probably them losing those 2 games was the best thing for them, because it really was that shock. And then they also had the break to sort of think about it, and then Josh Morris came over in the meantime and really sturdied up the defence, and also his attack's been great too. But Latrell Mitchell, I think he's been okay at Rabbitohs. He's finding his feet, but in terms of the Roosters, he's also been a big part of the Roosters for the last couple of years. So them just chucking in a few different players into the centre position, definitely not up to scratch compared to Latrell Mitchell, who's been there, whereas Josh Morris is another Origin calibre player coming straight in, slotting in with the brother. Him and Brett have been outstanding, and they're definitely showing the class, and it just pains me to see them in Roosters colours, considering I'm a Bulldogs fan. It was only a couple of years ago they were running around in Bulldogs kit, and especially Josh more than a few years. So yeah, it is painful, but I'd really like to see Josh get a premiership. I've seen Brett get a premiership with the Roosters, him getting one with the Dragons, didn't get one with the Bulldogs unfortunately, but Josh, I feel like he's been close a couple of times. We had 2 grand finals, even in 2009 got to the prelims, very close on a few occasions, but just hasn't got it. Got everything else though, so he needs to complete his cabinet there of trophies. So it'd be nice for them to get the win, although at the same time Roosters a 3-peat, I guess it is kind of looking likely. No one else seems to have that consistency that the Roosters have, although they have got a few injuries right now. I feel like overall the Roosters side, they're really, really looking good. It's a shortened season and they're hitting form. No Origin to worry about, and probably less injuries overall this season because of Origin and stuff. I mean, I'd like to think so anyways, but all the other sides, they play a good game and then they play a shit game. You look at the Knights, they're on their day, they're a team who can be incredible, and then you get games like the last week against the Cowboys where they get absolutely towed up, and you go, what? This doesn't make sense. Cowboys haven't been in form, Knights have, and then yeah, I feel like it's been happening a lot this year. Go try and bet. Sometimes you'll be able to pick pretty good, but I feel like there's been a lot of upsets happening. Even teams like the Bulldogs, like last week, you thought they would they would compete. This might be a game they can win, and also the Tigers as well. They're so hot and cold. Both of them were such a hard game to pick, and then Tigers just come out and absolutely wallop them. So yeah, it's definitely been a hard season to pick in terms of tipping and betting and all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, the Roosters have been a sure thing. Even the Roosters got pushed by the Dragons, who have been terrible to start the season. So yeah, it definitely has been hard, but I suppose that's just going to happen when teams, are finding new players, and I mean, in the Warriors' cases, are loaning in players, and got players leaving the country and don't want to play, and all that sort of stuff. Only allowed so many players. Reserve grades not happening, so players they bring in aren't exactly in form. So I think it's definitely been an interesting season overall. I am enjoying it, and hopefully you guys are too, and hopefully you did enjoy the video. That's where I'm going to leave the video. If you did enjoy it, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke on YT. My Facebook page is in the description below as well. It's Mr. Luke, just search it up. And you may as well add me on Snapchat as well, Mr. Luke on YT as well. Same, it's on what's on the screen right now. Anyway, guys, just one took that video. I wasn't sure how that was going to go, but hey, we'll see. It was filmed on my iPhone, so it's not the normal setup as you can tell, but I'm away from my house, so I had to film it on this, but hey, it's better than nothing, and that's exactly my thoughts on the football at the moment. Hey, might not be the best, but it's better than nothing. Anyway, guys, this has been Mr. Luke, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.